Well, hey there. I was thinking of what might be a really helpful thing to cover, and a lot of my students, both online and in-person students, will ask me to help them read a chart. You know, they get a song in a book or that they've downloaded or something, and some of the symbols, they don't know what they mean. So I thought we'll cover that today, and those symbols can help if you're just, you know, trying to sing and play along with songs, and try to figure out what some of those chord things mean, whether you're playing mandolin or you're playing guitar or you're playing ukulele or whatever instrument. So I've also got a whiteboard here we can use. So here we go. So most songs, whether you're playing folk or bluegrass or Irish, country, rock, whatever, are going to generally be based on 3, 4 chords, sometimes even just 2. But you'll have your 1, 4, and 5 chords, maybe your 1, 4, 5, and 6. So if I just put the key that I'm in on my thumb, I have C, D, F, and G would be my 4 and my 5. A minor would be my minor. Or if I'm in G, I'd have G, A, B, C is my 4 chord, D is my 5 chord, E is my minor. So let's just write those down. If I was going to have this G, C, D, if I just have a capital letter, that's a major chord. I don't have to write major, but G is G major. Okay? Then if I was going to write that E minor, if I have an E capital and then a lowercase m, that means minor. Also though, you may see on some charts, it may have a line like that. So that is also E minor. Okay? So that's our basic thing of whatever chords we're in. If you are looking on certain places where they may want to just give you the chords and you decide which key you want, or people are calling out things, they may just do Roman numerals. If I have big Roman numerals, that means major. And if I use a lowercase Roman numeral, that means a minor. So that would be like a 7 minor, or a 6 minor, or a 2 minor, or a 3 minor. Okay, so that gives us just some basic things. Now I'm going to give you some basic things. I'll build up to some more advanced things. If things get too advanced, don't worry about it. Just take what you can out of here. And you know, you can always contact me too, and we can really nerd out and get way into theory if you want, or just handling what you're seeing in some of your basic songs, or jazz songs or whatever. So some of the other things, let's just look at some of the sounds of some of the chords too, so we can try to figure out. So we have basic major chords, right? So like G major is like hi, happy. G minor, it's kind of sad. And then D7 is like, what? So those are our basic things that we have. So, you know, and every letter will have that. So A major, A minor, sad, A7, what? Okay, so then we may have, if we look at these 7s, you know, I don't want to get too deep into a theory, but it's just the 7th note in the scale, flatted one fret, so it sounds nice and bluesy. So if I have my G, I can go to my G7. I go to different types, different places. Okay, so then if I write that down on here, that will be like, you know, I have a D or I have a D7. If you really don't know the 7s yet, you can probably just play the D. It'll work itself out. If though it says D minor, right? Or it could say that D with a slash, which means minor. D is like potatoes. D7's like potatoes with some butter and some pepper. It's got flavors on it. Now D minor is like broccoli. If it says D minor, you can't play D. You gotta play D minor. Okay, so there's just some basic kind of just ways to work through problems you might have in reading those. So if sometimes when you're looking at songs, especially ones maybe that were written out by a jazz person, we may find some weirder looking symbols. And some of them you can kind of ignore. It is nice to have those flavors when you're cooking, the extra spices, or to have those extra paints to paint with. But if I had like a G, that's G major. I also could have like a little like Star Trek thing, little triangle, or G major, or G major 7, or maybe G capital M major 7. And there's more ways that we can write things that I'm writing here. I'm trying to keep it sort of concise so we don't go too long and too in depth. So if you see these things, you can get by with just playing whatever that is without all that extra fluff on it, the icing on it. But if you want to know how to make those extra icings, you know, we can do that too, and they're out there. Let's see. So we have the majors, the minors. Another thing you may see is a diminished chord. So if we do see that, that is going to be usually you might see, like, let's say if we have a C chord, if we see C diminished, it might say C dim, or it may say C with like a circle. And that's extra suspense, okay? And what that basically means is like a 7th chord with a flatted 3rd and a flatted 5th. So it sounds like really suspenseful. So let's just quick look at that. And it doesn't matter what instrument we're on, just grab one of them. So D's like hi, right? Diminished is like what? And that may be the kind of chord that you would hear if you have somebody tied to the railroad tracks and the train is coming, you know, and they do that up close look at their face, you know. So whatever instrument you have. What? In context, you may find them as transitional chords. And so there's ways you can add extra icing to your cake, or take icing off with those jazz chords, or we can soup them up or scrape them off if we don't want them. But just to know what those symbols are, the other symbols we might see, I'm trying to think, sus4. So if I have, these are going to look like this. And in songs, if you're doing songs from singer-songwriters or folky people, you're going to maybe see this. So D, I'm just picking this letter. It could be any letter, A through G. D, sus. Or I could say sus. I could say sus2. Or I could say sus4. And sus means suspended. And basically, if you just count to 2 or you count to 4 and add that letter, that's all it really means. And it creates a little excitement, a little dynamics. So if I look at that really quick here, let's just take the guitar. Let's just say D, since I wrote that chord down. Here's my D. If I add the E note, that's my 2, D, E. That's sus2, suspended 2, D normal. Add the 4th note, so that's D, E, F, G. G is the 4th note. Now be the sus4. If it just says sus4, just count to 4, add that letter. So. I mean, who hasn't heard that? That's like one of those easy go-tos. A million people who just start learning guitar figure out they could pick up a couple fingers and put them down. You can do it in any chord. So there's A. If I add my 2, A sus2. So you'll see those. I'm just trying to think what else are going to be. In terms of other symbols that I see people making mistakes with a lot, that'll really help if you're trying to get through. Time signatures and sharps and flats are very helpful to look at. So if you see a chord anywhere, F, with a tic-tac-toe board or a hashtag looking thing right after it, that means F sharp. So whatever your chord is, if you have all of the notes, all of the strings close, a finger pushing down on each one, you move it up 1 fret, and that's gonna go from F to F sharp or D to D sharp or whatever. So a tic-tac-toe sign is a sharp. So it could be 1 letter sharp or 1 whole chord that goes up sharp, one fret. Or we could have this little lowercase b is a flat sign, right? So That being said, also when you're using your tuner, that's going to help. So if you're using your tuner and the tuner says G with a little hashtag after it, and it says it's in tune and the little line goes right to the middle, that's not G, that's G sharp. So I've seen that happen a good bit. Another thing that will happen with the tuners that I think is a common thing we don't want to make the world a better place, we should just address, is that the standard key tuning that we're all in is that the A note equals the frequency of 440. You don't have to understand the whole science of that for right now. But what you do have to know is that some tuners have a little button on the side that will change that, and it'll go to maybe 438, it'll go lower, or it'll go to 444, 442. And then usually the next question I will get is, why wouldn't that even be there? Because that means if you've tuned to your tuner and it's set to 444, you're not going to be in tune with anyone. Most recordings that have been recorded in the last, 20 years, most people tune to a standard pitch, that A440. And so you can actually jam along with most things that are professionally recorded because of that. But if you're not set there, you're going to be off from them. And if you go to that jam session and you're accidentally at 438 or whatever number you're on, you're not going to be in tune with everyone. It's going to sound weird. And the reason they do that, though, is if you have a piano or an accordion or something, you can't tune the piano. I mean, it's expensive. You have to have a professional come in. Accordions also, So if you're just having a jam and your friend has an accordion or piano or some other instrument that's really hard to tune, you just tune to them. And so you figure out what that thing is. And if the person knows, oh, I'm at 444, if you get an accordion from Europe, a lot of times they may be at 444 or 442. They have different standard in different places. Then you can use one of those fancy, nice chromatic tuners where you can just set it to a different calibration. And so that's great if you know it's there. If you don't know it's there, you don't know why everything sounds so bad. So I think that'll be a lot of what we're gonna see. The other thing is picking songs that are a good fit for you. And if there's a whole lot of crazy cymbals, you may see, like I said, I won't get too into it, but you may see like a half diminished or a minor 7 flat 5. And if they have a whole lot of things, so it'd be like you put the chord right before that, if you see a lot of that, you could totally learn it, but you may want to just pick things that are going to be an easier fit and build up a little at a time. Or get a teacher that can help you work slowly through learning all these chords. Or if you have a good teacher, they can also help you, or friend, skim off some of that extra icing to just, you don't always have to play a million chords to get the song. You can sometimes figure out which ones are the most important. But the time signature is a big deal. So if you see sometimes the beginning of a song or a piece that says 4/4, that means we just count to 4. That's like the most common, the most easy, the most intuitive, like check, check, check. A lot of bluegrass country folks gonna be in that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can have different emphases of it or feels to it, like a reel or a hornpipe, it can be bouncy or whatever. But you have a 2, 4, 2 over 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's like your polkas, chick, chick, chick. And that's also usually pretty comfortable. You may have 3 over 4, and that's generally going to be like your waltz feel, like chunk, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you're playing instrumental tunes, it's very, very common. We're going to do a lot of jigs. 6/8 is your jig. You have single jigs, double jigs. You may have slip jigs. But they're still fairly comfortable depending on what kind of music you've been playing or listening to. Those are all fairly intuitive for at least most, Western people that have grown up around that style of music. If you see like 5/4, or 7/8 or 13 or something like that, those are going to be common in certain countries. Maybe, I think Turkish music has a lot of that. A lot of kinds of music have them. They're not impossible. There's even, I lived in India for a while, you get 10, you get all sorts of different timing counts. But those, if you're not really if you don't really know how to find that emphasis, you can sort of play the song and sound a little wonky. So just a little note about that. Also, if someone says like a dominant, like A dominant, you can just play A7. It is a whole genre, a category of chords. It could be A9 or A11 or A13. But if you're just starting out and it says A dominant, you can get by with your A7. Fine. So anyway, hope that helps. I'm Tara Linhart, and I'm just hoping to help you guys have fun with music, and if you're learning music, to keep on doing it, because the more people having fun with music, better the world's going to be. So just check out my website, contact me if you want any lessons. I can do online lessons to anywhere in the world, or in-person lessons if you happen to be in wherever vicinity I happen to be in at the time. So anyway, keep on picking and grin. Bye.